This should have been impossible. A fish, swimming calmly, at a depth where the pressure could crush a submarine like an empty can. And yet, in 1960, that is exactly what two explorers claimed to see through a tiny window, nearly 11 kilometers below the surface of the ocean. For decades, scientists were almost certain of one thing. Down there, nothing survives. No light, no warmth. A weight of water so extreme it would flatten anything from the world above. But the deeper we looked, the more that certainty fell apart. And what we eventually found down there didn't just surprise scientists. It made them question what life even means. This is the story of the Mariana Trench, and the strange, extreme, quietly unsettling place at the very bottom of it. Let's start with the number, because the number alone is hard to process. In the western Pacific, near the Mariana Islands, there is a trench that stretches for more than 2,500 kilometers, and inside it, there's one specific point that goes deeper than anywhere else on the planet. It's called the Challenger Deep. Its depth is close to 11,000 meters. Here's a way to picture that. Take Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, and drop it into that spot. The peak would still be more than 2 kilometers underwater. You wouldn't even see it. Now think about pressure. At sea level, your body is used to a certain amount of pressure pushing on it all the time, so constant you don't even notice it. At the bottom of the Challenger Deep, that pressure is over 1,000 times greater. It's the kind of force that would crush an unprotected human body almost instantly. Ordinary submarines aren't built to survive it. They'd be crumpled before they got anywhere close. So the assumption made sense. No light, no heat, a weight that destroys almost anything. This had to be a dead zone. But there were small clues, long before anyone actually went down there. In the 1950s, researchers pulled up samples from the deep ocean floor and found something that didn't fit the theory. Simple organisms, microbes, alive. It was strange, but easy to dismiss as an edge case. Then, in 1960, two men went to check for themselves. Jacques Picard and Don Walsh climbed into a steel vessel called the Trieste and began a descent that took about 5 hours. 5 hours, moving toward a place where, according to the science of the time, nothing should exist. When they finally reached the bottom, the impact stirred up a cloud of sediment. For a moment, everything was still. And then, movement. Near the window, something was there. A creature, at a depth where almost nothing was supposed to survive. That sighting alone didn't rewrite the textbooks, but it planted a question that scientists couldn't shake. If life could exist here, in the most hostile environment we knew of, what else had we gotten wrong? That question is where the real story begins. Picture yourself at the bottom of the Challenger Deep. No sunlight, no warmth from above, no plants, because nothing can photosynthesize in total darkness. So where does the energy for life even come from down there? The answer isn't glamorous, but it's genuinely strange once you think it through. Almost everything alive in the deep trench survives on what falls from above. Scientists call it marine snow, not real snow, but a slow, constant drift of organic debris. Dead plankton, waste from creatures higher up, tiny fragments that sink for days, sometimes weeks, before they ever reach the bottom. It's a thin, unreliable food supply, but given enough time, thousands of years, it's enough to support an entire ecosystem. Food isn't the only problem, though. There's still that pressure, more than 1,000 times what you feel at the surface. So how does anything down there survive being crushed? The answer is in the body itself. Many deep trench animals don't have rigid bones. Their bodies are soft, almost gel-like, which means there's no hard structure for the pressure to break. And at the cellular level, their proteins are built differently from ours, stabilized in a way that keeps them functional even under conditions that would destroy the proteins in your own body. In other words, these organisms aren't surviving the trench by accident. Their biology was shaped by it, and the deeper researchers explored, the more of these creatures they found. Transparent shrimp, giant sea cucumbers, fish adapted to permanent darkness. One of the strangest is the Hadal snailfish, a soft, almost see-through fish that lives further down than nearly any other fish on Earth, calmly swimming through pressure that would be lethal to almost anything else. Some researchers have gone further, suggesting the trench isn't just an extreme environment. It might be closer to a natural laboratory, a place where life found a completely different set of rules to survive by.
But then, when modern expeditions started sending robotic submersibles into the trench, they found something that had nothing to do with biology at all. Something that, by every expectation, shouldn't have been there. For a long time, the trench was imagined as one of the last untouched places on the planet, sealed off, isolated, too remote for human activity to reach. Then, researchers started analyzing sediment samples from the bottom, and the results didn't match that picture. Plastic. Microplastics, tiny synthetic fragments, turned up in sediment collected from nearly 11 kilometers down. One of the most remote places on Earth, and it already carried a trace of us. It went further than sediment, too. Scientists studying amphipods, small shrimp-like scavengers living in the trench, found that these animals had been ingesting microplastic fibers. In one well-documented study, every single amphipod sampled from the Mariana Trench contained plastic particles in its gut. Not most of them. All of them. These are creatures that have never seen sunlight, never touched the surface, and they're already carrying material we manufactured. That finding raises an uncomfortable point. The deep ocean isn't as sealed off as we assumed. Whatever happens up here eventually finds its way down there. At the same time, something else about these trench organisms was pulling scientists' attention in a completely different direction. Not pollution, but potential. Some of the bacteria living under that extreme pressure produce enzymes that function in conditions where ordinary enzymes simply stop working. That's opened up real interest from biotechnology and medical researchers, who are studying whether these unusual biological tools could be adapted for use outside the trench entirely. But the most surprising implication isn't medical. It's not even about Earth. When scientists study extreme environments like the Mariana Trench, some of them are thinking beyond our planet. Because there are moons in our solar system, Europa orbiting Jupiter, and Enceladus orbiting Saturn, that are believed to hide liquid oceans underneath thick shells of ice. No sunlight, crushing pressure. Conditions that sound almost identical to what exists at the bottom of our own ocean. So here's the question that keeps coming up. If life can survive in an environment as hostile as the Challenger Deep, could something similar exist in those alien oceans, sealed away under ice, light years from anything we've explored? Nobody has an answer yet. But every discovery from the trench pushes that question a little further from science fiction, and a little closer to something worth actually studying. And here's the part that might be the most unsettling of all. Even now, with submarines, robotic vehicles, and decades of research behind us, most of that world remains a mystery. We've sent spacecraft to Mars. We've photographed galaxies billions of light years away. But the deepest point of our own ocean is still, in large part, unexplored. Only a handful of crewed missions have ever reached the very bottom. One of the most famous happened in 2012, when filmmaker James Cameron piloted a solo submersible called the Deep Sea Challenger down to the Challenger Deep, a descent of a few hours, alone, in one of the most hostile environments on the planet. When he arrived, the scene was exactly as bleak as expected: dark, silent, seemingly empty. But his cameras still caught small creatures moving across the sediment. Not lifeless, just quiet. Every expedition since has turned up something new. New species, new microorganisms, new adaptations that don't fit neatly into what we thought we understood about biology. Some researchers believe there could be thousands of undiscovered species still living down there. Maybe more. So the real question isn't really about the trench itself anymore. It's about how much of our own planet we still don't know. The Mariana Trench isn't just the deepest point on Earth. It's a reminder that the most unexplored place in our world isn't somewhere distant. It's right beneath the waves we sail over every day. And it's still waiting to show us what else it's been hiding.